Hey, gorgeous. So it's wedding week. It's currently Tuesday. Our wedding's on Saturday. And it's kind of like chaotic, but like slow burn chaotic. What'd Jake say? Jake calls it, we need to like hurry up and wait. That's what this week feels like. We both took the week off, and there are a few things we need to get done, but there's not really stuff that we can do right this second. It's kind of things like, oh, like I wanted to make some cookies for our rehearsal dinner, but I don't want to make them too far ahead, so I've got to wait to do that. We want to steam our suit and dress, but we want to wait until close to the day of. Things like that. So we're getting a lot of little stuff done. We've made so many Target runs in the last just like few days because we'll remember a thing that we forgot. I can bring that up quick. So a couple of things that we got were, there are these curtains at IKEA. They're called like Lill. Lill, and this was like, so this is only one, and these are huge. I rolled it up because it's gigantic. These are full lace white curtains, and it was $5.99, and we're gonna use those for our wedding arbor. We're gonna hope that my friend had some extra tulle lying around, but as a just in case, we just grabbed that because Jake also wanted some new cubby boxes from IKEA, so we just grabbed that while we were there, and it's super cheap. And I'm in a wedding Discord and someone mentioned that, and I'm like, oh my god, that's a great idea. So that's what we have. And a thing that we just bought today are these little jars. It's a little pumpkin-y because it's fall, which is awesome. And we needed something. We're doing our Unity cocktail. And we realized that like we're gonna both hold the bottle of gin and pour the gin together. But then we needed something to hold a honey syrup, and we needed something to hold lemon juice because we didn't just want to use like, a weird bottle of lemon juice. Because the gin is we got a purple gin, and it's in a purple bottle, and it looks cool. So why not just use that? But the other stuff we wanted to put in something. So this was a 2-pack for $3 at Target. And we're just going to put it in there, shove it in a cooler, and then when we're ready, we'll like pull it out from under the table and pour it that way into our we got a nice goblet too that we already had. That a friend of ours gifted us. So that's all set. And that's just a couple of little runs we did. We also, Jake decided to like blow up a picture. He took a huge panoramic picture the day that we got engaged. He took a picture of me sitting on the edge of Sky Pond right before he proposed. And he loves that picture. That's his favorite picture because the scenery is beautiful. And he said the moment of anticipation is like so much for him. My favorite picture is still the picture we took on our second date, but I can see why he likes that one. He bought a frame for it today, and he put it on the wall after he got like a poster version of it from Office Max. He's so cute. He was just standing in front of it looking at it earlier, and I'm like, oh, you're adorable. Darn it, I'm getting off track again. I made a list so that I would not get off track so often because these videos are always like 20 minutes long, but here I go again. Another big thing we've done this week is a lot of delegating. That's been a huge thing this week. I wanted to ask people sooner, but Jake wanted to wait until about the 2-week mark because he didn't want people to like agree to something then forget, or that we have to like ask people again basically. And we know if it doesn't get done, it's not the end of the world, but it's nice to have some people there having our backs. So for example, we have a videographer coming, but the package we booked is where they only come for the ceremony. But Jake and I are doing a first look before the ceremony. And our photographer will be there for that, but we don't have video for that. So I asked a friend of mine if she would just take my camera, and we have a tripod we're going to give to her. And we're just like, hey, can you just come and press play? You don't have to do anything crazy. If you want to, go for it, because she's good with a camera. So if she wants to, she can. But we tried to make it as easy as possible. So all she has to do is just come and press play on a button. And that's all she needs to do. Or the setup is another big one that we asked. One of my friends actually lives 10 minutes from the venue, so we asked her, and we asked our friend, the officiant, because, I don't know, it just seemed like a good idea at the time. I think he offered, so we're like, oh yeah, sure. So those two are going to help me and Jake set up the reception space the day before, so that's neato. We asked some people to give us rides, because we didn't book transportation. Our reasoning was, so we're going to stay at the hotel the night before. The hotel is 15 minutes from the ceremony site, and then from the ceremony site, you go back to the hotel. The hotel parking lot has our reception space in it. It's literally a 2-minute walk between our reception space and the hotel. So we figure if people hopefully no one's gonna be drinking before the ceremony. So we figure everybody can just meet us at the ceremony, all of our guests, and they drive back to the reception space, and then they can just walk to the hotel from there. Like, not many people will be coming from the hotel like we will be on that day, so we figured not having transportation would be fine. And then, yeah, we asked some people to clean up. We asked about, like, someone to pick up lunch for us. We ordered lunch, we paid for lunch, we just need someone to, like, run and pick it up. And lunch is also, like, in the same parking lot as everything else, because we were just getting Jimmy John sandwiches. So, like, it's all, like, sort of easy stuff, but, you know, it's nice to have that figured out so Jake and I don't have to drive ourselves to the ceremony. Like, my parents are going to drive me, and his best man's going to drive him. And then our officiant's going to drive us back to the reception space so that we can sign the marriage license in our hotel room and then meet everybody at the cocktail hour. So, yeah, delegating was the thing I was most anxious about, because I like to do everything myself. I don't like to ask people for favors. And it's not even so much that I am a little bit of a perfectionist and I want things done a certain way, but it wasn't even really that. I just hate asking people for favors. I don't want people to feel obligated to help me. I just feel like I need to do everything myself. So it was nice to have Jake to just be like, if you ask, like, what, they can say no. It's fine if they say no. And if they say yes, they want to help us. And it's nice to have him on my shoulder, being the voice of reason. Because I know that, like, my family and friends would love to help us. And a lot of them have offered to help us in a lot of ways already. I'm just like, nope, I'm a burden. I do not want to do that. And yeah, people just step up for you anyway, at least in our case. We also had our final call at the venue. So we got that all squared away. I think I mentioned the, like, money back that we get from some guests not coming. That covered basically everything. We got some additional, like, the cool thing about our venue is our flat price that we paid included service and gratuity, like those sort of fees. But since we're adding extra stuff onto it, some of those fees get added back in. So basically, we still owe, well, we don't owe anymore, Jake paid it off, but we owed like $280, like, extra. And that's it. Like, it was supposed to be like $2,500 extra, but since so many people aren't coming, we only had to pay $300, which is crazy. And I'm so grateful for that little buyback option that I'm pretty sure they don't do anymore, because maybe I mentioned this already, but the coordinator seemed very confused about how to figure out the buyback option, because she kept sending us the invoice telling us how much we needed to pay, and it kept coming up saying that we needed to pay like $2,000 something, and we're like, no, that should be covered. And it took a lot of attempts to actually get to the proper amount. So yeah, I think we were making it difficult for her, but hey, that's what our contract said. So all squared away. We did our final call with the DJ, who we actually learned isn't going to be our DJ. We knew he owned the DJ company, but every time it was referenced to us, they always said his name specifically. The venue called him by name, like, he was the one we were calling, but we just learned through the call that someone else is going to be our DJ, which is totally fine, and I'm glad I'm a little overly prepared, because he gave us some sheets to fill out, but I also made a Google Doc that was just like, don't play these songs. These songs are, like, would be great if you did play. If you can't, totally get it, because some are a little obscure, because there's, like, we tried to cut it down by a lot, but I think a half dozen songs are still in Japanese. I think there's one Bollywood song in there. So, and then some are just sort of lesser known, like, electronic kind of songs, like dance music stuff. And some are well-known one, like we got some Cascada on there, and like Zed and stuff. But there are songs that we're like, we know people can dance to this, and so we're glad we have that list, because we haven't talked to our, like, legit Z DJ. It's a little bit of a bummer. It feels kind of like a bait and switch. But at the same time, I remember my sister-in-law told us she had him as our DJ, like the DJ that we thought was our DJ. And he was a great DJ. Don't get me wrong. He was great the day of, great MC, like, decent music selection. It was a lot of, like, country and stuff, which we're not huge on. That's not our genre of music. But that's what the couple liked, right? So, like, he did, like, his job. The only issue was that the majority of guests were either down in the basement or, like, outside, because it was way too loud. So it's kind of nice to know that, like, we can just go up to this guy and be like, hey, can you turn it down? I'm sure at their wedding they could have asked, but they didn't. They thought it was fine. But, you know, they were a younger crowd. Totally totally valid. When I was in my 20s, I didn't care about loud music, and now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, oh God, you're killing me. At our DJ meeting, we also talked about song cuts. Making song cuts was so hard. I had a certain song picked for my daddy-daughter dance. I'm doing You'll Always Be My Baby. There's the Mariah Carey song. I found a David Cook version that I was going to do, but it was so difficult to find a good spot to cut it It sounded sweet in the beginning, and then it got like too much. I wound up finding just an instrumental version that was more easy to cut into like a 2-minute dance, because I don't want to have a long dance. I don't want people to wait. My dad doesn't have great knees. Jake doesn't like to dance, so he didn't want our first dance or the mother-son dance to be very long either, so we just cut everything to 2 minutes, and we're calling it good for those songs. We did finally pick a mother-son song. That was a hard one. We were having so much trouble. I was sending so many things to Jake. He wasn't liking any of them. He eventually just looked up a list of popular ones, and he sent them to his mom, because his mom was also just sort of, he was vetoing everything his mom sent. His mom wasn't huge on the things he was sending, and he finally have Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, which also we had to cut, because that's like a 5-6 minute song. But I found a good section for it. And like, I know the DJ could have done it, but I feel better knowing that we have like sort of a precise thing, especially when it comes to like the bride song, Walking Down the Aisle. Like, I wanted to swell at a certain part, because I picked an instrumental for that. That's from a movie I really like. And same with, with the bridesmaids going down the aisle and the groomsmen. So that was a little project for me, was cutting where the songs went, talking to the DJ, and then picking the mother-son dance. All figured out. Songs are final. Which is great, unless Jake was talking today about trying to add more songs by certain artists, but I don't know if they'd be ones that people would dance to. So we'll see. I told him add him to the list, and if he plays them, he plays them. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So that's the general tone currently. Oh, we also made our little bar sign. We just bought like a frame here. It's just like a little like, hey, this is the beer we have, this is the wine we have, and then liquor is cash bar. Like, just so everybody knows, I can put that right on the bar so that it's just stated plainly. I wrote it on our website so that people would know, but I didn't put on the invites because I thought that might be too much. But I don't know how many people look at the website either. So hopefully some people did and they have cash on them. It's pretty common in our area to have cash bars, so I'm assuming most people will bring cash. And I know the venue has like an ATM there, so I'm sure people have cards. They could get money out of the ATM if they really want liquor, but I'm assuming most will go for the beer. So that's the hope. We also made these are our like table number holders. This is actually really nice. I love that we got this little plywood under it so it's more stable, because these would have just tipped over. And we just like hot glued that on. Nothing huge. We have extras too, because I planned for 28 tables and now we have 20 tables. So like if any fall apart, that's fine. And if Jake convinced me to bring the glue gun with though in our emergency kit bag, which is the other thing I finally finished putting together, is the emergency kit bag. I'm also sitting a little further back than usual because there's Jake's suitcases in front of me and my suitcase on the other side. We haven't completely packed everything because most of the stuff we need is like toiletries and like clothes, which I don't want to throw in my bag and have them be wrinkled because they're going to be sitting in there for like 4 days still. So haven't done that packing yet, but we got some of the main stuff in there, like the extra things that we will need. Oh, here's another thing I did. So I found like this perfectly sized box, like just this big. This big strip, table number, and then behind it I put all of the place cards per table, and I organized by table, because we know who's sitting at what table, but we didn't have to decide like who's sitting in which seat specifically. But I feel like this will be great when we're setting up, so that we can just take stuff out and put it all on plates, and they can decide like, well, whoever is setting up that table can just kind of put people wherever they go. But I did put the couples next to each other, so I'm assuming they'll just go down the line. And the other thing we did, I got this from someone on the wedding Discord. They gave me their template, but it's a little sign, like a little I Spy game, where you can just put down, or you can check off stuff. We were going to do a QR code, but that seemed a little complicated. And we know, like, most people there have our phone numbers, or if they don't have our phone numbers, they're friends with us on Facebook. So we just put a little thing, like, tag us on Facebook, or just send it to us directly if you have the thing, because we tried to figure out with Joy's moments part, but it seemed like it would be tricky for some of our older guests, or like people have to download the app specifically, which I know I've done in the past for a friend's wedding. We downloaded, I think it was the guest, which was fine, but a lot of people didn't do it because they didn't want to download an app on their phone. So we just kind of tried to make it as easy as possible. I know we made a mistake and we put like a selfie at one point, and then at the very bottom we put a picture of you, but that's fine. Like, we'll see if people even do it. It was just kind of a like, well, we're looking, like I said, we're doing the hurry up and wait thing. So we were just trying to come up with more things that we needed to get done. Like, I'm currently writing thank you notes for my bridesmaids. That's one thing I'm trying to get done. Jake finally bought his groomsmen gifts. He just is getting them all a gift card to Micro Center because that's up all of their alleys. And it's very, very like him to just give people a gift card as a gift. So I'm not really surprised. I'm sitting here trying to find these personalized gifts, and Jake's like, oh, gift card's good. That just shows how different we can be. Also finished, I made timelines for everybody. Like, literally everybody. I made timeline sheets. I made a separate one for bridesmaids, separate one for groomsmen, one for Jake's parents, one for my parents, one for the DJ, one for the photographer. They basically all know this information already. I just wanted to print it out so that, like, we're all aware of, a timeline for me and Jake specifically. All that stuff. I sent everybody a link to the Google Doc so they have it. And it's basically just timelines, or just like, oh, hey, like a reminder for certain people, like, hey, be here at this time. For our friends who are helping us set up, here's like what the setup looks like, and yada yada. I wrote down like what's in the emergency kits so that my bridesmaids know like what will be on hand, so they don't feel like they have to bring a bunch of extra stuff if like they're worried about it. They'll know that will be there for them. Yeah. It's also, Jake calls it our anniversary week. Our anniversary was on Friday. It was 5 years together. And basically every day since, we've been like, happy anniversary leading up to the wedding. Because, I don't know, we've just been kind of hanging out. We both had the time off, and we're just sort of doing our tasks, doing our wedding stuff. And there's not as much wedding stuff to do as we anticipated. There's still some to do, but not as much as we thought. Like, we probably could have both still worked this week. Well, except for Friday. We probably would have been fine if we'd just taken Thursday and Friday off, as opposed to the whole week. But it's nice to have it. It's nice to have this chill time, like, so we can just sit around and, like, watch YouTube together. Or, like, we watched Howl's Moving Castle, which was one of my favorite movies. It's definitely one I watched a million times when I was younger. So it was nice to introduce him to that, because he doesn't usually watch animated shows. Like, he watches some animes now, but he doesn't really watch animated movies. He doesn't like Disney, which is, like, oh, my heart. But I get it. It's not what he's into, and I don't really like, some of the movies he likes, so it's fair. But we just don't watch movies in general, so it's been nice to sit down and watch a movie. Or, like, we've been watching a lot of Game Grumps, and we saw them playing a game. Like, it's probably an older series. We're like, wow, that would be fun to play. We should play that together, because it's one of their, like, versus ones. Or no, it was a co-op one, actually. It was, like, a cooking game that Jake said the Yogscast made that game. And I was like, ooh, it's all coming together. So it's like a cooking game. So we might play that tonight, because that sounds like fun. One frustrating thing, though, about being so close to the wedding is the COVID scares. Aw, man, it is not fun to get those text messages, because I don't think we have anyone backing out yet. But obviously, like, on your day-to-day, like, COVID scares happen. I totally get it. But since our wedding's coming up, people feel the need to tell us, obviously, because that means they might not make the wedding. And then it sucks, because the first one was my brother. His wife is the one who is going to do my hair and makeup on the day of. She's the one who's helped us a bunch with invitations. She's helped a bunch with all of the, like, pre-planning parties, and I've grown close to her over the whole wedding planning process. And, obviously we're going to keep, like, being close afterwards, but it's kind of nice because it brought us together when we didn't really talk to each other much before. And so he told me he had COVID, and first it's like, shit, my brother's not coming to the wedding, that sucks. And then it's like, double shit. His wife, who's doing all this stuff, won't be able to come. And obviously I can, like, figure out makeup and hair myself. It wouldn't look nearly as nice as if she did it, but it's one of those things where it was more like, that was an extra bummer on top of the, like, they can't make it to the wedding. But I had my freak out, went for a walk, cleared our heads. Next day he texted me he'd taken 2 more tests and they were negative. So he had a false positive the first time, and I think he's taken tests since then, because he told me to, like, he didn't really have any COVID symptoms. He's just been having a headache for a while, so he just thought he'd give it a shot. And yeah, apparently it wasn't COVID. But also, my maid of honor, her boyfriend, he was exposed. Someone in his class had just got diagnosed with COVID like 2 days ago. And her boyfriend had come to visit her and my parents, and so she told me about that, and still don't know what the consensus on that. I told her, like, just test the day of, hopefully it's fine. Like, I'm trying not to stress about it, because what can I do about it? Because it would absolutely suck if my maid of honor and my parents could not make it to my wedding. Like, I don't even Like, I currently can't comprehend that actually happening. So I'm trying not to think about it, and I'm going to hope for the best. Yeah, if they can't make it, I guess we'll have to do like our own little celebration later on. But the majority of people coming are like my relatives who are expecting to see my parents, you know? So it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? But yeah, that's been rough. She told me as soon as her boyfriend found out, he immediately like went home, and they'd only seen each other for like a couple hours at that point. So she's hoping like with the, I forgot like the period of time between like him having it and him potentially getting it, like it should be fine. It's not fun. I don't like this. It's really frustrating because I haven't had any, like, no one's had COVID that I know for months, and then suddenly like a week before the wedding where I'm getting all this information that I do not want to hear. Because I've mentioned this before, it's one of those things where it's like, well, if we get COVID from the wedding, that's kind of a bummer, and everybody else knows like this could happen at a wedding, like we're all aware, we're all adults here. But the idea that someone will take the test the day of and not come, and it's someone I really want to come, is almost just like, I don't want to know. But obviously, I would rather have all of my other guests be safe than have someone with COVID come to the wedding, right? So it's like, I can't just be like, oh, blissful ignorance. Like, you know, I have to let that happen. If that happens, it's what it is. But, oh, it sucks to hear about it. It almost would be better if I wasn't sitting here waiting. Like, it'd almost be better if they didn't tell me until the morning of, and then I could just be like, process it in the moment instead of like being here sitting anxiously waiting to know if it's going to happen or not. But I think either way, it's like a lose-lose, really, unless just no one has it, which would be the best. So let's hope. We kind of a last-minute addition. Jake has been talking to one of his friends, and Jake and I both have a big regret because we sort of listened to our venue, and they said we could only have 6 people each in our wedding parties. They said 12 was like the max for wedding parties, which we learned later was complete bull. But now it was kind of like at a point where it was a few months ahead when we found that out, and it was like a little too late to be like, oh hey, I know like I didn't ask you to be a bridesmaid before, but will you be a bridesmaid now? Like it felt like a butthole move, even though it still feels like a butthole move to not have them. And so like my compromise was a friend of mine. I asked her to be a reader instead since she's not a bridesmaid. But Jake didn't really know what to do. He's included his friend in like basically like, the bachelor party and everything else. And he's been talking to him more lately. And I just kind of had an epiphany. I was like, hey, we don't have a ring bearer. Would he want to be a ring bearer? Should we ask him? Like, is it too... I was like, I know it's very last minute, but like all he has to do is like dress nice and like carry our little like book down the aisle. And the whole reason we weren't going to have a kid do it was because, you could very easily lose the ring if you're a child, right? Like, I'm not going to trust a 3-year-old with our expensive rings. But I was like, wait, we have like a full-grown adult who could just carry it down the aisle. Because our other option was to have our officiant carry it down, but our officiant's also a groomsman, so it would look kind of weird if he was carrying something and none of the other groomsmen were. So now it's like a good compromise, and his friend agreed, so that's great. So we know it's last minute. His friend's also like he's a little anxious, so like it's kind of nice that he can walk up, he can be a part of it, but then he can go sit down with his wife and like not have to like stand up for the whole ceremony too. So we're excited to have him be part of it, and we're so glad we found a way to include him. We wish we'd thought of it sooner, but we're glad that he gets to be part of it. So now like all of our friends get to be like, all of our closest get to be in sort of the wedding party. I consider them all in the wedding party. That's still gonna be our biggest regret though, is that we didn't just add like the extra people on each side and just have 7 each instead of 6 each. But I don't know, we just kind of went with what we were told, and we should have questioned it more or pushed harder against it. And yeah, that's everything in wedding stuff. We're still just sort of working on stuff, spending time together as a couple, and trying to like prep for this day. We've also had like a few other just sort of life things. So a tree in our front yard, it's got what are they called? Those ash borer, emerald ash borers, that's what they're called. And so it's dead. So we finally booked someone to come and cut our tree down and get rid of the stump and all that stuff. We're not going to do it until like a couple months from now, because they said they could actually do it in winter, which I didn't think was possible. I didn't think you could remove a tree and stumps in winter, but they said they could do it. And I think Jake's spending a little extra for that. So that will be nice, because Jake points out our tree every time we go by, like, oh, our tree looks terrible. I'm like, I know, hon, you told me. You tell me every time we go outside. So we have that coming up, which is another expense, but like, I guess to go with that, a cool thing that happened is, oh, I don't think I've mentioned this on the channel, actually. Well, dang, okay, well, here's like a quick sum up. So Jake and I mentioned our trip got cut short, our trip to Canada. It was because we got into a car accident. It's easier to talk about now because it's been a while. We were taking a left turn to get into like this, like a dirt road, and the road is only like going one way each direction, like there's only one lane going each way. And so like there's no one coming from before us, and so there was a semi behind us. And so I put on my turn signal to turn onto this dirt road. But the semi, I don't know exactly what happened, obviously, but I'm assuming the semi didn't see my signal, or he was already trying to do it and I missed it, but he tried to pass us as we were turning. So he hit the back of my car. We flipped into a ditch. It was an awful time. Do not recommend. Car got completely totaled. Jake and I managed to get out of it with just like, Jake got like a scratch on his forehead and a scratch on his ankle. I got like some glass in my hands, like little pieces, nothing huge. So I just had some cuts, and like my entire left leg was just like a bruise. But besides that, like we were surprisingly fine. Like we went to the doctor like the next day. We both had like whiplash, but it went away within a week. And like we didn't get x-rays or anything, but like fingers crossed there's no like long-term damage because we both still feel fine currently. But that was an experience that I never want to relive again. But because of that, my car got totaled in Canada. Getting back was a whole can of worms. It was annoying, but my parents ended up like coming to pick us up. Like that night we got home like 2 a.m. the next morning. Anyway, so I guess the point was, since we're getting rid of the tree and now we have extra money because we got the insurance money back from my totaled car. So that just got into my account like today. So we're going to use some of it for that, and we're going to do the rest I had to get a new car. So put a lot of the money towards the new car because the wedding's already paid off. So can't really, like, we're not going to put it towards the wedding or anything. It'd be nice if we could have put it towards a honeymoon, but also because of the accident. So I got a new car. I got a hybrid Honda Accord. And Jake, so his car is also a Honda Accord, but it's a 2004. And he was looking it up, and, the safety features aren't very good. And after an accident, you kind of get more concerned about safety. So he traded in his old car. It didn't give him a whole lot, but he traded in his old car, and he also got a new car. So now we had the wedding's paid off. No worries about the wedding, but now we have 2 cars that we need to pay off. So it's great to have that money so we could pay off some of it. Obviously not all of it. Like my old totaled car, like 2015 Chevy Cruze, was not going to pay for a 2022 Honda Accord, but but it's something. We're just grateful to be like out of the accident with our lives and stuff. I also had like a terrible stress dream, but I'm not going to get into that because I already talked about the accident. That's enough drama for one video. Oh my gosh, I came into this so convinced I was going to keep it under 15 minutes, and now like my phone says it's been 33 minutes. So hopefully I can cut this down and you didn't have to watch this whole thing. But if you did, I appreciate so much that you're watching this whole video, and me just like, I don't even know, this isn't really vlogging because I'm just doing me on video. I have so much respect for vloggers who actually record the things as they're happening, because I forget I own a phone every time I go out of my house. I'm just like, what? Really? I could have recorded that the whole time? I can't believe it. But yeah, if you're like listening to all this journey, thank you. I appreciate it. I know I have like someone subscribed the other day, and I was like, wow, people are like, they're getting their views on these, because it's such a small thing. And I think I mentioned this in my first video. I'm mostly doing this like as a keepsake for myself, but it's nice to feel like I'm talking to an audience. If you're out there, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.